Welcome back. It's a Better Learning Podcast. My name's Kevin Stoller, host of the show. I have a previous guest on, and we were just starting to catch up, and I figured we should just start it. So I have Dr. Scott Muri. How are you doing?
Frantic today. Is doing really well. Doing well. So life is transitioning, and so yes.
Yeah, I
Busy.
want to hear about that transition, and then we're also going to be talking about this movie, Friday Night Lights. We've
Yeah.
changed some of the formats, and it's been a lot of fun. If you haven't listened to the last one on Dead Poet Society with Michael McDowell and Aaron Iceberg, that was a lot of fun as well. But Scott, before we dig into that, what's going on? What's new in your world? Last time I talked to you, you were superintendent at
Yep.
Ector County in Odessa,
Yep.
Texas.
So, and a lot has happened since then. I'm now superintendent emeritus at Ector County ISD in Odessa, Texas. So announced in August that I would be, I'll quote, retiring from the superintendency. So I am supporting the interim superintendent, supporting the board, and kind of doing some work to help tie up loose ends. Finished with that in January. And so right now I've moved physically to the state of Florida. So I have boxes behind me and all around me. And so life is in transition right now. But yeah, all is good.
Wow. Okay. And was that why Florida? What?
So I part of my career, I spent 11 years in Central Florida. I worked for Disney in a local school district, Osceola County School District, and we opened a school way back in 1996 as a part of Disney's community called Celebration. And I was in that environment for 11 years, and so this is a bit of home for me. So homecoming,
Nice.
lots
Yeah.
of friends and folks around the Orlando area.
Very cool. Well, I'm sure some of these things are going to break down our conversation, but I was so excited when you picked Friday Night Lights, and my immediate
Hey,
reply was, "Are we talking movie, TV show?" You replied, "Movie, TV show, book."
all
So
of the
we can
above.
we can get a mix in there. It
Yeah.
actually forced me to go rewatch the movie, and because I'd seen it before, and holy cow, I was taking a whole bunch of notes from rewatching it. The TV show is like literally number one TV show. Like when I rank like what's my favorite shows, I got a lot in there, but Friday Night Lights has been like my wife and I. It's like it's just
That's
so
funny.
good.
That's funny.
So
Yeah.
yeah,
It
so
was a fun community in which to live. And again, certainly all of three of those elements mirror some of what happens in that community, even today.
yeah, so I'll set it up, and I think you have some amazing context that you can throw in here. Is it was a true story from 1988, and the movie came out in like the mid 2000s. I think it was like 2005. It came out with Billy Bob Thornton as the football coach, and basically like it set it up as like this is like the typical small town Texas football town where just everything revolves around the football team, and they go through the season together. Well, how much? I guess if I set it up, like how much of this is real? How much did you know about it coming in there? Like what was that? What was it like moving into Odessa?
Yeah, so I came to Odessa in 2019, and so a lot has certainly changed. The community has grown quite a bit, but a lot remains unchanged. I think the one of the elements, and I actually is funny. After I was accepted the position in Odessa, I also watched Friday Night Lights again, just to make that connection. And then even after I've been there for a couple of years, watched the movie again, just to kind of center and see how much of it was real. I think the thing that is most evident in the movie and really what it's about is the concept of Friday Night Lights. And even today, at Ratliff Stadium, which is the stadium in which Friday Night Lights was filmed, and we still use it today, we'll seat 20,000 people on a Friday night for a football game.
That's
Now, not
crazy.
every game has that many folks, but when it is a big rivalry game or just a big game between the Midland area and Odessa area, or even our two large high schools, Odessa and Permian, you'll see 20,000 people in a sold out environment, and kids and adults and people of all ages. I mean, there are a lot of senior citizens in that community, 70, 80, 90-year-old individuals that have season tickets to high school
Wow.
football because it's such a part of their experience. So that is very real. It was then and continues to be today.
And so that Ratliff Stadium, so it was filmed like that was real Odessa.
Correct.
That
Real
that was
Odessa. In fact,
all.
many of the scenes in the movie are real places within the community. Absolutely. Yep.
And it seemed like the names were real too, of the players that they were highlighting. It was the quarterback, the running back. I think it was Winchell
They
was a
are. I don't
quarterback.
know if all of the names were real, but yes, many of those
Okay,
folks, and in fact, some of them still live, in the community. The actors and actresses portrayed real people that are still residents of Ector County and Odessa.
that's crazy. So, all right, so I have a whole bunch of notes here, and I told you I just switched to a Mac, so I'm going to make sure I that I could see you and the notes that I have put in here. But there were so many things that I'm like, oh, I got to find out. I'm like, what, like, how does this versus today, and like what's real? Tying in like a couple of the things in there, they just like the radio and like the commentary that was coming from like the community. How much of that is real? Like how,
Evolved somewhat. Again, the community from a sports perspective is still all in. When you have again 20,000 people attending a high school game, there's a lot of excitement and energy around high school football in the area. But we have a lot of newer folks in the community that come from all over the world. Literally because of the gas and oil industry. And so some of those folks, football is new to them. And so the nostalgia really reigns true with the older generation, those that are typical, Odessa and Ector County. But some of the new folks, it's an interesting phenomenon, but they're not as excited
they're
about
not in.
what
Okay.
happens, and so that is certainly beginning to age, if you will.
Okay. All right. So there's a couple. I'm just going to talk through some of these, and then I have some categories too. But these are some of my takeaways. Is they talked about $100,000 for the coach, and it would be totally worth it if they win state. And the second I heard $100,000, it made me think of our last conversation, where I know that's a push to get the teachers to that level.
Oh yeah,
I just thought that was interesting, just knowing
yeah.
like that we were going to have this conversation.
It is interesting, and so today, we have teachers making that much money because of the good work that they do. So many teachers making over six figures, and which surpasses the coach, if you will. And so that's exciting to know that people are being paid for the exceptional work that's happening in the classroom as opposed to certainly on the athletic field.
Yeah, the other thing that stood out, just like into today's context, they had a whole scene where they were talking about their Nike shoes, and and I know at the college level, the whole NIL, the name, image, likeness, has completely changed. But I know it's making its way into high schools. Have you seen any of that yet? Like to the point where high school students are getting kind of like endorsement or like influencer type of deals, or is it more, or is it even at the program level? Like, do you have Nike as a sponsor or anything like that?
Yeah, we have, both again, our two large high schools, Odessa and Permian, do work with some large vendors that make some things available, for the teams. But really, the reputation that our athletes have in the community, has been around for generations. I'm a great quarterback, and so I get a lot of notoriety because of the work that happens on the field. Or I'm a great, basketball player or volleyball player, as the case may be. And so we continue to see that today. We showcase our student athletes quite a bit, and especially those individuals of good character, and give them opportunities, at our elementary, middle schools. And so, but that has been going on for a long time. I think social media certainly, a lot of our athletes have their own
Yeah,
social media presence, and they certainly have their fan base, if you will. But
yeah.
the
I was
exchange of
thinking that.
money and images is not happening at the high school level yet.
Okay, not at that level. 'Cause, yeah, I know. My brother works at the college level, and they one of his friends is like looking at that and trying to help like the high school athletic directors like navigate through that, because they feel like, yeah, I don't know, maybe in some states it's happening, but they
Yeah.
feel like it's only a matter of time
Could
that
be,
it's going to
yeah.
be there.
Not here. One of the things our athletes do is a lot of them have their highlight tapes, and so on their social media, they've gained a little bit of expertise in how to put together a brief highlight package, and so that'll help showcase their talents. Really trying to sell themselves to the college level, the recruiters, et cetera, and then again feeding the fan base. Got to feed the
Yeah.
gram. So.
Yeah, yeah. So there are a couple things that have things like that. If it was done today, would be totally different. There are ones that I had in there of like one that was at the recruiters. The whole idea that the recruiters would come and watch a player, like that's got to be done so much by social media and videoed, in doing that,
Probably
but
so, but we still have a lot of
they still
recruiters that
come.
are
They
there.
still come.
There's and many times it's the head coach. And so, once we have a marquee athlete in really any sport and a team wants them, we're frequently visited by head football coaches and basketball coaches, et cetera, of, Division I teams around the country. That's a pretty common thing. Yeah.
All right. So the other ones that stood out to me is at one point someone had to pull over to go use a payphone. Obviously, that era
That was a
it
long
has
time.
moved on, and there was also a huge high school party that, from
Yeah.
my experience, those don't happen anymore.
Yeah,
Like to the
they
level of that.
probably do here and there, but I think from a party perspective, one of the things that I found interesting and really harkens back to the Friday Night Lights dates or days and still is today is tailgating at a high school football game. I was a college student. We tailgated at our games, but we have fans that show up hours before kickoff and set up tailgate experiences in the parking area, a large parking area, I give for 20,000 folks. And so that happened in the 80s and continues to happen even today. And so you'll see a lot of that. So that is the football party, if you will, not always involving the kids, more the adults than the kids.
Yeah, there was one comment on like when they had the local radio playing and they had just lost a game, and, and it was hilarious. It was something to the effect of like there's just too much learning that's going on at that school. Like they were too focused on academics. I just thought
Yeah.
that was hilarious.
Yeah. We
Uh,
that's important. We do pay a lot more attention today on the teaching and learning side, and that has probably evolved a bit over time for sure. Yeah.
all right. So all right, a couple other things before I get into these awards. There were definitely like the racial dynamics
Mhm.
that were in there, even like to the referees of how many black referees and white referees. I hope that's changed, but I'm sure there's still some of it there. Like what's been your
Sure. Yeah.
experience?
It certainly has evolved over time, and again, across our country, we have work to do continually in that area, so we do have to pay attention to it. But yes, very different from the way that we were in the 80s, definitely, and have moved in a positive direction for sure.
All right, I have a lot around Billy Bob Thornton. Part of this is like him being a football coach. Still, I just can't get my mind around
Sure.
of just like that choice. First off, like there was one where he had some like really good speeches, but there were also times where it just felt like he was totally like aloof and like
Mhm.
not really there. But he had one line that I really loved of like, no difference between winning and losing, but the outside world treats you differently. But like for the person, there's really no difference, and that the only curses are self-imposed. And I thought, I'm like, that's pretty good insight
Yeah.
coming from
Yeah.
him.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, he also there was a bad play that happened in the middle of the game, and he used the phrase "golly bum," and I had never heard that phrase before, and I just thought it was
I haven't
hilarious.
either. I haven't either. But that is not, I would say that's a common phrase around Odessa and Ector County for sure. Yeah.
And then he had this amazing halftime speech in the final game, and I'm just like, where in the world did this come from? Because
Yeah.
the entire movie, he was not like this inspirational
Sure.
guy, but it was like an amazing one of talking about being perfect for each other, and not worrying
Yeah.
about winning, but just being perfect in what they do for their
And
team.
maybe a great coach wrote that for him, but
That's
I think,
right.
the essence of a quality coach in any sport or, a quality educator for that matter is the ability to motivate and encourage your students and or athletes. And yeah, we all have to have those speeches in one way for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And then at the end of it, I forgot that they had lost that
We
final
lost.
game. Like spoiler for if you haven't seen the movie, I just spoiled it
Yeah.
all.
Yeah.
But I totally forgot that had happened.
Yeah.
And I just yeah, it made it super compelling and surprising because I'm like, oh, they're gonna win. They're gonna come
Sure.
back and
Yeah.
win
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
game.
Yep.
But
Yep.
so
Yep.
that was real, right?
It
So
was
they did
real. Yeah.
lose,
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
and then at the end they said they came back the next year and they actually won the championship the next
Yes,
year.
that's correct. The next year they won. Yes. 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 Yeah. Yeah.
Any
So
since then? Or
No, none since then.
okay,
I will tell you that that particular team, Permian High School, has had significant success, not only in football but in academics, athletics, the arts. I mean, they've had quite a bit of success. But you still today see on their actual campus, not at the football stadium, but on the campus, is a big sign that tracks all their division playoffs and division wins, regional wins, state championships, and so that the community and anybody that drives by can keep up with the success of that particular program. But it's a very successful organization. Yeah.
yeah. All right. So moving into the awards here. I guess yeah, chime in on other things on here, but we have a bunch of awards and a few of some ideas too as we're like figuring out this format. I'm sure we'll get some new ones. But the John Keating Award of the best teacher. Was it the coach? Was it Billy Bob? I was trying to think through of like who was like the most that teacher or that mentor that did that. I had a couple different people in there, but I'm wondering if it is if it was Billy Bob. And I apologize, I don't remember like the actual coach's name. I know the coach's name from the TV show of
Yeah.
Coach Taylor, but I don't remember who it was in the movie.
Yeah, probably. Some of the parents were interesting as well, and the
Yeah,
roles that they played, because some of those kids, those athletes had some healthy support and encouragement from home, and then others did not. And
yeah,
so, that coach from the home should be considered as well. They didn't highlight a lot of the school staff, if you will, but parents were certainly notated. But yeah, the coach. I mean, again, it was a movie about the team, so
right. Yeah, yeah, yeah. There were a couple of like even the uncle of the running back that hurt his knee.
Booby
He just,
Miles.
yeah, yeah. Was he? His uncle just seemed like that great mentor, and
Sure. Yeah.
yeah, the one that yeah was there for him,
Hmm.
after the injury,
No
and
matter what. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, the one dad. I think it was Tim McGraw who played that one dad that was just horrible to his kid, but by the
Yeah.
end
Yeah. Hmm.
they had some
You
good moments.
certainly saw both sides of parenting and really both sides of adults and how we can shape kids positively or negatively
Yeah,
in the movie
and
for
putting
sure.
that projection of like that was the most important, like that those high school years are the most important years of my life, and now projecting it,
Sure.
putting it
Yeah.
back to that kid of being like,
Yeah.
this is what you're going to remember for the rest of your life. Uh,
Yep.
yeah, and I'm sure there's some realness to that as well.
Have you ever wondered how a simple change in your classroom can revolutionize learning? At K 12, we believe the physical space is key. When we partnered with Gary Community Schools in Indiana, something incredible happened. Their classrooms were outdated and uninspiring. Using our radically student centered approach, we reimagined their spaces. The transformation was nothing short of amazing. Teachers saw immediate results, students came back from winter break excited, more engaged, collaboration increased, and overall performance improved. One student even shared, "We have new furniture, it's like Christmas all over again." On the first day back, local media came in to cover the story, capturing the joy and excitement of students discovering their new learning environments. See how we can transform your school today. Visit kay-twelve.com to learn more about our innovative approach. K 12, because every student deserves an inspiring place to learn. Visit kay-twelve.com today.
So the clicks, the stereotypes, did they hit the stereotypes pretty good? I mean, really the ones that I mean, it was really kind of like the jocks of football players. There really wasn't that much outside of that. Maybe a
Yeah.
little bit of the cheerleaders, but not.
Yeah, I would say it was probably fairly accurate for the period. Today that is very different. There are, and really, I'll lift up social media as a primary reason that there are different types of groups on a high school campus that get a lot of different types of attention. So, but yeah, there are
Yeah,
still cliques within a high school for sure.
yeah, yeah. Was there a class clown? Anyone who like stole the show? Like like they didn't get a lot of attention, but the things that they did, they did throw in funny one-liners. There, I don't remember a lot of humor in the movie. The TV show, there was a lot of this.
Yeah. The movie, not as much. There were some one-liners, but not would say anything. Not really a
Yeah.
comedian. No.
Yeah, yeah. I think of like Landry in the TV show. Like he was always the one that was just hilarious. Everything. Yeah, he would come in just with the perfect lines, perfect way
Well,
to.
yeah.
Yeah. All right. So typically in a movie, there's a big homecoming scene or like an iconic moment that happens at the school. I think I know my answer, but was there one for you where like this is the one scene that just like that captured the essence of the movie.
Oh, the essence of the movie.
Yeah, or yeah.
It would have to be a game. I would go to the final game. I mean,
uh,
the title of the movie is Friday Night Lights, and it was all about what it takes to get to that to the epitome, the state championship game, and so I think that game would be the homecoming, the that would be the epitome of what it's about, winning or losing. It was about that, getting to
Yeah.
that destination.
Yeah, I agree. I think maybe yeah, I think that they did a good job of like in the Astrodome in Houston, like just really building that up, like just
Sure. Yeah.
how big of a deal. It reminded me of Hoosiers,
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
very much of yeah,
And in
you're going to
Texas, it is a big deal in Texas. I mean, again, a large state with lots of teams, and so it's to get to that place, you have to be exceptional. You're at the top of the
yeah.
nation. Yeah. So
And I figured I'm like it's probably because I don't think the Astrodome is in use anymore. But now with the Cowboy Stadium, I'm like, man, I wonder if it shifted over there for state
it
championships
um
yet.
it still goes to the stadium in Houston, and not the Astrodome anymore.
Okay, the
Actually, the Astrodome still
where the
sits there.
Texans, yeah,
First,
yep,
is where the Texans play. Yeah, NRG Stadium.
yep,
Um,
yep,
mhm.
yeah. I was just there for a conference. I'm like, yeah, last time I was there, it was like the last year the Astrodome was in use. I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah. So, all right, okay, one liner, anything stood out, funny, memorable. I know mine was just that golly bum line. I'd never
Yeah.
caught that before, and but I don't know if there was anything that stood out for
Not
you.
not a one-liner, but I think an event that still happens today, unfortunately, is putting for sale signs on the lawn of the
Oh,
coach when things aren't going well. That can still happen today in 2024. So
wow.
yeah, can you
How
imagine waking up and
no,
yeah, mhm, yeah.
man. How about like
Mhm.
the boosters? Because I mean, there was the booster that was kind of threatening, like if you don't win, he wasn't
There's
explicitly
there's
saying it, but
Sure. There's pressure, I think, on any coach in any organization to be successful, and some define success as you got to win every game. And in a high school scenario that is accustomed to winning, that is important. And some, unfortunately, may put undue pressure on achieving wins versus building quality athletes and people of good character. So.
yeah. Yeah. All right. So the next is realistic or ridiculous. Was there anything in there that you remember as just being like that is so unrealistic, or the opposite side of like extremely realistic, kind of like your point of having the moving signs. Anything stand out for you as being like, oh, that is so not true?
Hmm.
The fact you're thinking about it means they did a pretty good
Yeah.
job
I
there.
just so I think the super rural nature of the community is not necessarily a reality. It wasn't as much then, and certainly isn't now. It's a bit more of an urban environment today. So
Okay.
I think just the picture that was painted of this, tiny, dusty, West Texas town isn't necessarily as accurate today. Yeah. So and
Yeah.
wasn't necessarily accurate then either. So.
Okay. Mine are kind of nitpicking on the sports elements of this movie.
Mm,
The last two plays of the championship game, and I don't know, maybe it was this is what happened,
yeah.
but they had the most ridiculous plays. It was like 4th and 7 and like 12 seconds left, and they run the ball, and it looked like it was literally one guy against 11. Like he just was
Yeah.
plowing through like every
Right.
player.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't think that happened.
Yeah. Made for TV movie. There you go. So it's
Exactly.
probably,
Yeah. Yeah. I'm
yeah.
like, so I don't know. Maybe there was something like that. And
And,
then
but
there was a
actually, I
flag and
don't
they did it
know.
again.
I don't know for sure, but certainly some embellishment happened during the movie.
Yeah,
Definitely.
I would think so. There
Yeah.
had to be some in there. All right. So the next gen, if they updated the movie today, do you think there'd be certain elements that would change today? Like anything different, social dynamics, technologies, or like different like character lines or things that you think
Yes,
would
certainly
come
the
from that?
racist thread that was throughout, I think it would be very different today for sure. The line that you mentioned earlier about academics, I think is very different today. I think our community and really society has a much different perception on the importance of a quality academic education. And then, sports and arts and athletics are seen as supporting that for kids. And so that perception has certainly changed quite a bit. From
Yeah.
then to now. Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, that's really good. The substitute. If you're going to take the main role, if it's not Billy Bob Thornton, who would you put in there?
Oh, oh, oh.
While you're thinking, I have a hard
Yeah.
time not the Coach Taylor in the TV show of Kyle Chandler's the actor in that. Man, he was so good in that role.
Mhm.
And it's great. Like they actually took the same wife. So it was Connie Britton was the wife in the movie and also the wife in the TV show.
Yeah.
Um, and they didn't really give her much of a character in the movie, but I'm like, man, Coach Taylor would be would
Yeah.
be would be a good one. I'm sure there's others. Any
Probably.
come to
Yeah.
mind?
I just think about just a good coach because so much of the movie is about that, the coaching element. It'd be really interesting to take a college or NFL coach and put him in that role,
Man,
just to live out the coaching piece of that. I'm a Popovich fan, and so while he may not
oh
deal well
man,
with high school students, I think the element of his coaching and the nature would be interesting in that environment. So to take
that would be
or Nick
awesome.
Saban and to put him in that environment. So
Yeah. Oh, that would be awesome. Yeah, good one. Both of those are awesome. And Popovich would have some like really interesting
that would be interesting.
hypothetical things and
Oh, sure,
mind
sure,
game
sure.
types of
Yeah,
things.
yeah.
But yeah, those are both awesome. All right, our last category, call it the hags. This is like my kids do in all their yearbooks. They all sign hags now of have a great summer. What are the final comments? Things if you're going to write in a yearbook, like what are your final thoughts or the lasting impact of this type of movie?
I think while some may see and certainly there's some negative, connotations within the movie. I think overall, the movie has done a good thing for our community. It certainly has brought attention, and at a high level, the concept of Friday Night Lights. When I attend a football game and there are 20,000 fans there, and you look at just the number of students that are engaged, a band of 375 kids, really times two because we have two bands there, and then
Right.
the cheerleaders and then the athletes and all of the students that are engaged. It just involves so many kids and keeps them active when they could be doing something different on a Friday night. And so, but in our community, they're engaged in a positive experience. And so, I think it's just remembering the importance of extracurriculars and opportunities like that in the lives of our kids. And to watch so many kids come together to cheer on their high school and cheer on those athletes and just provide that level of support. It's an amazing experience.
Yeah,
So even
that is a great point because it's such a huge part of that high school experience. I mean, I grew up in Chicago. It wasn't as big as Texas, but it was still
yeah,
that was the event. Like that's where you get socially together. There's so many people, yeah, to your point, that get
sure.
involved and people that are running kind of the technology and calling the game, and there's just
Yeah.
so many things and really learning experiences that happen
And it
because of
doesn't
that.
have to be football. It could be arts or something else. But I think just the concept of engaging students, in activities beyond the traditional day is so important, and they have such a great time. And I think it's up to us as adults to create those environments for our
Yeah,
kids.
yeah,
So
and you think about it, it's like yeah, like every kids got their why and their reason too, and there's a lot that
Sure. Oh,
sports and some extracurricular is really the reason
yeah,
why they actually come to school every day,
absolutely.
um,
And it's
to
on
do that.
display on
So
a Friday night, in the
yeah,
city of
yeah,
Odessa.
yeah, that's right. Yeah. Well, awesome. Yeah, thanks for breaking that down. I- Kind of bringing it back to real life for you. Like, what's your life going to look like now? With this transition, what are the things that like, yeah, that are on your mind?
Yeah, so I'll be retirement for me is not retiring to the rocking chair. It is really kind of moving on to the next chapter. Two buckets of work for me. One is I'll be doing some executive coaching for superintendents, school boards, cabinet members, just kind of that seniors, C-suite level of folk, districts across the country. And then the second bucket for me is investing in bodies of work that I find personally fascinating. AI, doing some strategy work there, human capital, doing some strategy work there, and so kind of just being a strategic thinker in some of these areas that are kind of pushing the boundaries for public education today. So those are my two buckets as I move forward. Yeah.
Yeah, awesome. Well, you're the perfect person for it. Yeah, I really enjoy getting to know you and seeing you take on big initiatives and actually make it happen. Yeah, I mean, your last one here, like what are you most proud of the changes and the things that implemented with Hector?
Oh yeah. So I'm most proud of the work of the 4,200 members of the team, and the positive impact that it's had on the students that we serve. And so, like, we have 34,000 kids that depend upon the adults in that organization to do really good work every day. And we are a much better organization today than we were in 2019. And so kids are winning today, and that makes me incredibly proud. And so I know great things will continue to happen because good people are in place within that organization. So I get to cheer them on, from the side, and I'm excited to be able to do that. But
Yeah,
kids are winning today, unlike they've ever won before, and so that's makes me happy.
very cool. Well, whatever you do, I know it's going to make a big impact. So appreciate all the work you've done in your career to this point, and then moving forward. To the listeners, thanks for listening. Yeah, give us feedback on this new format. It's definitely I've really enjoyed it. It's made it a lot more fun and engaging, and we have a lot just fuller conversations just by doing in this format. So I'm curious to hear your feedback if there's different movies we should do, people you want to be on and talk about one of your favorite school movies, or if you have new award categories. We really get a lot of feedback from our audience, so we just really appreciate you guys. And betterlearningpodcast.com is the hub for all of that. Dr. Scott Muri, it's great seeing you. Thanks for talking some football with me.
Appreciate anytime. I appreciate you.
The views and opinions expressed on the Better Learning Podcast are those of myself as an individual and my guests, and do not necessarily represent the organizations that we work for, the Association for Learning Environments, K-12, Education Leaders Organization, or Second Class Foundation.